The real ID, I mean, it's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And it should have been done a long time ago.
Well, and I got it because, you know, for like several years now, they've been saying like you couldn't fly
Yes.
without a real
Yes.
ID. Like,
Real ID. I was looking around on Facebook this morning for no particular reason, just checking around and seeing what's on Facebook. And I come across a news article from our local, like I think it was our local television station, and they went to the DMV because apparently they're swamped with people trying to get their real ID.
and let's be honest, our DMV is always swamped because there's incompetent people that work there.
Yeah, I mean,
Or assholes, one
I
of the
think
two.
that's most DMVs across the country, but we have a cheat code. Like there's little small town rural DMVs around us, so we go to those places and there's never a line.
No.
So it's a little cheat code. You might have to drive 20 minutes to get to the one in like Cameron, Missouri, but when you get there, you go
You're in,
right
you're out.
in, you come right out, and you're on the way home. And by the time that you get home, you wouldn't even be halfway through the line at the DMV here in town.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was funny, and I commented on the post. I was like, don't everybody rush to the DMV. You've only had years to prepare. And one lady commented on there, not me. I've just found out about it, and I'm like, well, it was signed into law in 2005, so that law is like actually 20 years old. But Missouri had to ask for delay after delay and extension. And the reason why was because they kept saying the infrastructure was too expensive and they needed time to comply with the law. It's not that they were fighting the law. They needed time to comply. And so I've told that lady that, and of course, there's no response on that. But then there was another lady on there that why didn't they talk to the women this affects most? And I
Yeah,
commented.
because she was saying like this law affects women the most.
Right. And so I wanted to know, I was like, why does this affect women the most? And she commented back because if women have been married or if they've been divorced, those are extra hoops that they have to jump through that men don't have to jump through. And I'm like, so you have a problem presenting documentation that you are in fact who you say you are. And then there's another lady on there that commented that she got married and then divorced in another state, and somebody's husband died and they couldn't get this and that. So I'm like, so your bottom line, you're saying that women are terrible record keepers. Is that it? And I'm flabbergasted by the people who make umpteen million excuses on why they can't do something, but they never find a good reason why they can.
Yeah. I mean, like, I got my real ID and
I
I didn't have to go get, additional documents, and I didn't have to go search for this or go purchase
Right.
that. Like
I had to show one extra
what I needed.
I had to show one extra form of proof of residency, which is something with my address bill on it, like a utility bill or a
Like-
bank statement or something. I
mean-
used the insurance statement.
I just think about like, when you apply for a job and you got to fill out an I-9.
Yeah,
you
like-
have to have certain documents, or I mean, you could have a passport.
Well, I think
But-
what it is the classic, I'm a victim argument, like
them.
women shouldn't have to jump through all these extra hoops to get the same treatment. And I'm like, then don't change your name. Don't change your name. It's that simple.
Yeah.
If you get
Like
married,
nobody's telling you have to change your name.
right. If you get married, you don't have to take his name. If you're looking for, but you did change your name. And then if you change your name again, and then you change your name again, you're going to need to present all that to get ID. Why wouldn't that not make sense to people?
No, like I never saw it as a big deal. I just made sure I had the documents I needed when I went to go get my ID.
Exactly. And all that, like there's a website and there's been a website that tells you exactly what you need,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's not like it varies from DMV to DMV. If it's in the state of Missouri, it should all be
right. That's
the
it,
same.
required documentation. And it's not very much. It's like I had to have my birth certificate, my social security card, and 2 forms of proof of residency. That's it. I imagine for you, since you've had a
Well, the
name
only
change,
thing I need is a marriage license.
yeah, the only
or
thing
certificate or whatever.
the only thing extra you needed was the form of documentation proving that your name was changed legally. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not like, is it that hard, people? Is it really that hard? Like, or are you just using that excuse to not do what, you know, because I mean, the real ID, I mean, it's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
And it should have been done a long time ago.
Well, and I got it because, you know, for like several years now, they've been saying like you couldn't fly
Yes.
without a real
yes.
ID. Like, and I kept thinking like, shoot, what if I have to fly? Like,
Right. But you
you
can
know.
get your passport too. And not like a lot of people
Yeah.
say, well, I'm just going to get my passport. That's cool. That's fine.
Yeah, like I did.
Because you have to have the same requirements to get a passport or the same documentation to get a passport as you do a real ID. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah, because I know like when I went to the airport, like the fact that I feel like the fact that I had a real ID made it easier, the process.
Oh, all they do is just look for that little star
Yeah.
on there. And yeah.
Yeah, because like ever since I've had the real ID, like going through TSA's like super quick.
Yeah, it's your domestic passport, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the people that rally against it and say it's a bad idea, like they don't have any problem with, you know, dead people voting, you know. So those are the people that I feel are against those kind of things because it's just common sense. You know, you do need, if you're going to live here and have the privileges of a citizen, you know, you do need to prove who you are, you know, like you do need to prove who you say you are to conduct business here. It's just the way it is. I don't trust anybody, and there's a good reason for
Well,
that.
and I like how I don't know if Missouri's the only state. There might be additional states, but if you're under the age of 21, your ID's like vertical instead of horizontal.
Yeah.
Which
And it's
makes it
you know, kind
easier.
of dummy proof, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what started out my day. But the rest of like my week has been great. You know, like I started off the week and we had that podcast. My week ended with the mowing of the lawn, and it, you know, I was tired out and didn't do very well or whatever. But this week's going great. You know,
Yeah.
I started out the week great, and I'm finishing it great. And I did an exciting podcast today with G. Michael Hopf, and he's an author of 40 books, and he owns 2 publishing companies, right? But he's the guy that did he's the guy who like really coined the phrase, and it's been, like really been popularized on with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, but strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. And I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in there, but he wrote that in a fiction book, right? Like, you know, a character in his story was talking to his grandson in a fiction book. And all kinds of people got all up
Got
in
in a
an
frenzy.
uproar over that. But there's so much wisdom in that one little poem or phrase or you know, whatever. And I found it hard to believe that he caught so much flack for that. But anyway,
Well, I mean, but the good thing is like that many people read the book, right?
Right. Well, I know I'm not sure if they read the book, but they heard the talking points anyway. But I had a great time recording that podcast, and I've got so many podcasts that are happening like in a row that are great ones, that I'm just stoked to have these guests, and big things are happening for the podcast. I've been reached out to by several people now, and things are starting to finally move for us, and it's really, when they say it happens all at once, you can almost feel the tide turning, and it's awesome to be part of it, and not just be part of it. This is my thing, It's really, it's like my baby. So I'm pretty proud of it, and I couldn't be more thankful to the people who supported me, my listeners, my viewers, everybody that's been a guest. Everybody that's visited the studio, everybody helped out with the studio, even though they've not been on the podcast. Everybody that helped fund this thing, I'm very thankful, and it's, my cup is overflowing this week. And we're going to finish off with a bang with this podcast. And I need a little extra time so we can edit the podcast that we did today. I was going to release that tomorrow, which is what today is. I guess you guys will get this before, but I was going to release that, on this Friday, but we need a little extra time because I want to do it to justice. I want to, make sure it's edited correctly. I want to make sure there's no bad spots with audio and stuff in it. And I want to make sure it goes out and gets the proper pomp and circumstance, if you will, because I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out, and it's probably one of my favorite top 5 podcasts. Like my absolute favorite one is the podcast I did with Ben Lesser, and I think that'll be number 1 for a very long time, if not forever. But so I'm very proud of how things are coming along with the podcast. So. Yeah. You got anything to add? You went on a field trip today.
I did. Went to Science City today and saw the craziest shit on the way down there.
Like a standoff in the middle of I-29.
There was a standoff in a U-Haul on I-29.
See, the craziest shit happens in Missouri, and like if this had happened out in LA, though, it'd be like every other day. Like it's like, big news around here.
I'm not kidding. There was at least 20 highway patrol, sheriff, police blocking the highway, and then you went about half a mile further down and they had MoDOT trucks blocking it as well. Oh, wow. And more highway patrol. So it was, and I was like, what's going on? Because there was
all those kids were just looking out the bus windows, because like you weren't in the bus with the kids. Yeah. You'd had to follow them or go down first, but yeah, I bet they were like, what is that? What's going on?
Because there was no cars. Like, so I was like, oh, it's not an accident, because like on my maps it said there was an accident ahead. Yeah. Well, it wasn't. There was no accident.
Police activity.
So, but yeah, I'd never seen that before.
So the field trip was to Science City in Kansas City, and like probably a lot of listeners that know where that's at, a Union Station. And we've been there a couple times before. I've been there long time ago, and then we just went, a few years ago. But now I think about a few years ago, it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is like when we were outside in that area playing, 2 trains were crossing paths as we were out there. So Rocket got to see the train.
That's awesome. So how was Rocket and did he stim a lot while he was there?
No.
And was he excited? Or?
He was excited, but he didn't do his stimming. Yeah. He was just like all over the place. Like, let's go do this. And he wanted to ride that bike that's in the air.
Yeah.
But he was too small. He had to be at least 54 inches tall, and he cried because he couldn't ride it. And I told him, I said, you just got to get bigger,
I'm really glad that he wants to try things that are difficult, though. I really love that. He always wants to challenge himself, and like a part of being a good parent is to let them, let them challenge themselves and let them do the hard shit, and they'll come out stronger for it on the other side. I absolutely love his spirit. He's like, no, I'm doing this. It's so awesome.
Yeah. The only thing that he didn't do that I wish he would have, because he does it with us all the time, is he asserts himself and bosses us around.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted to go down this really tall slide that they had outside, and you had to like climb like some single steps to get to a platform, and then on that platform you had to climb more steps and then get to another platform. Well, of course, there was kids all over, and these little girls just kept cutting in front of him, like, and he just kept letting them go, and he was getting mad. I could see he was getting more frustrated, and I'm like, so I went over there and I was like, Rocket, you tell them little girls to wait their turn.
Yeah.
I said, get on the ladder. And this one little girl turned around and looked at me, and I said, you wait your turn. Because
Well,
like
you can't interject in all the time though. You can't. You gotta. You could. I think he did pretty good, like by telling him to assert himself. But like mom
that's what I
can't be
told
running
him.
around doing shit for
I
him.
said, don't let them push you out of the way, because like one little girl had already passed him 3 times. Like she kept coming back up. And so finally, but I think part of the problem is he was afraid his fingers were going to get stepped on.
Yeah.
And so,
That's
but
pretty. I think I worry about my fingers being stepped
but
on
I
all
was
the
like,
time.
go, get up there. And so, because I mean, all these parents were standing around just watching.
Yeah.
And so like, I see he was getting frustrated. So I walked over there and I was like, you've got to stop letting these little girls push you around.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, he had fun.
Well, I'm glad he had fun, and
He really liked playing in the kitchen.
He'll learn how to play with other kids. I think right now he's still getting used to school in some aspects, because there's not any kids around when he's here, So
Yeah.
hopefully he'll get it. But it is one of those things. I think that he's kind of got to get it on his own.
Yeah. Well, he was pretty excited because he brought Pringles for lunch, and his teacher brought Pringles, but hers were smashed and he was like, why are your Pringles smashed? And she's like, well, they were in the bottom of my backpack and they got squished. And so she's like, I love Pringles. And he's like, yeah, but Pringles aren't healthy. And she's like, yeah, in small doses, the Pringles are okay. So
anything in moderation,
Yeah.
But I'm glad he had a good time. I'm glad you had a good time. I wish I could have been there, but I had work to do, and but it's some important shit's going on. So I sometimes got to make those sacrifices to be there when it counts. So
yeah. Well, and a lot of their exhibits were down, and they're building new stuff at Science City. Like they have a huge train room. Like it's got a real
oh, cool,
real train.
That's awesome.
In it, but it's got a bunch of storage stuff going on in there, and
I'm like a nerd for trains, man. I love trains so much. I don't know why. I just do.
Yeah.
Like I want to go cross country in a train. I think that'd be fantastic. And I want to go. There's still those old timey train rides that you could go on old open lines that you can go and take train rides. And
I want to do one of those. I want to do the ones with the open seating, and you can look out the big windows.
Yeah. I think that one you're actually talking about, like the one we looked at in Colorado. I don't remember, Silvertown or something like that.
Something.
Anyway, it had a 45-minute train ride through a gulch from a city to just this little cut off town that you can only get there by train, and you can only,
Yeah.
And I think that's really neat. So I definitely, yes, I'd want to do that. And then, of course, you go through the gulch, to get there to that little town. I think that's going to be fantastic if we ever get to go.
Yeah. If we ever get to go.
Yeah, if we ever get to go. I love traveling. I really do. And I was actually talking to another guest of the show earlier. This actually right before we recorded this, I emailed her, and she's doing a little bit of traveling now. And when I last spoke to her, we didn't get to the parts where she had traveled and backpacked Europe and stuff. And I'm really interested in that stuff because I really want to go to Europe. And I just love hearing what people think from because I know people in Europe and how they think about Americans. And I love hearing how Americans feel when they travel Europe and come home, and how they feel about the whole experience and everything. I think it's really just awesome to talk about. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to her about, and she's actually traveling right now. So I love traveling and I love talking about traveling and anything that I can do to like, I love challenging myself to go farther and do more things cheaper.
Yeah.
I love trying to figure out how to do things cheaper, but not miss out on anything. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like Groupon and shit like that. I've never actually used Groupon, but like I look for deals all the time. I love doing
Yeah.
that.
I watched a video today about like how to have a great time in one day in Vegas for $108.
Yeah.
$108 a day.
That sounds brilliant. Like I want to do some like challenges like it locally and like can we actually have a day's fun with $20? Like is that possible? And I know we can do it. I've done it before. So
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be interesting to like document it and share it with people on the show? That'd be
Yeah.
kind of neat. But you know what? I think it'd be a good time to end this little thing here because it's we kind of wanted to just like not only did we need a little extra time to edit that last show or the show that I recorded today. I wanted to kind of I wanted to kind of go through our day and what exactly happened today because it was just funny. And it's annoying to me that people make all these excuses and it's like, shouldn't you have all that, like the documentation? Shouldn't you have that already? Like, how old are you?
Yeah, but then I have to tell a funny story real quick before
Oh
we
yeah,
go, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I was just telling a lady at work about how, you won't let anybody have their social security card. And that I carried my
So in the family,
Yeah,
it's not
in the
allowed.
family.
Yes.
So, I mean, I understand the younger kids, but like me, Caleb, yeah, you won't let us carry our own social security cards. And that probably happened. You probably said how dangerous that was probably like, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And so up until then, I had always carried my social security card with me and my birth certificate. Like, because my birth certificate isn't like a big paper one. It's like a little card-sized one that my mom gave me when I was like probably 10 years old and said, here you go, this is yours now. And so I was telling this lady, I was like, yeah, my husband's kind of like weird about documents like that because he wants them all in one place and wants them easily accessible and you shouldn't carry it with you because somebody could steal your identity.
Like a grown up.
I said, so we've always kept them in the safe all together so we know where they're at. And so yesterday, after me telling the lady this, and then I come home and I'm putting cash in your wallet, I see your social security card.
In my wallet.
And I'm like...
But do you want to know why it was there? It's just,
because you had to go get your ID.
Right. I have not made it, it hasn't made its way back to the safe yet. And I do plan on putting it in the safe, but I just haven't made it there yet.
I just thought it was funny.
The thing, I had, my birthday was like 2 weeks ago and my license expired. So I had to go renew it. And I got the real ID, which I've had real ID for like 6 years now. So it's not like that big of a deal to me, but I had to have it. And so that's why it's in my wallet. It's been in there for 2 weeks.
Well,
so.
and I was talking to the lady, what got us talking about it is because like, in HR, you have to verify identification on new people.
Absolutely.
Well, some people come in with their documents laminated and you shouldn't do that.
And that's, I think it's actually on the card itself. Do not laminate.
Yeah. So that's what got us talking about social security card. Cause you can't feel like, you can't fill it. And so it could be
there is a seal on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, cause even my old birth certificate, you can still feel the seal on it. And it's like...
For those of you that don't know, if you want to replace your social security card, they will only give you a certain amount of a certain number of social security cards in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, I think that number is 5. I could be mistaken on that. But you only, like, if, for example, if the number is 5, you can only lose your social security card and get a new one 4 times.
Yeah.
On that 5th time. If you lose that 5th social security card, they will not give you another one. That's
Yeah.
what they said, and that's what the rules say. And I'm like, so that's why I'm uber protective of my Social Security card, is because I've lost one. Even when I was younger, my mom kept all that stuff like locked up in like a file drawer, all in one spot. So nobody lost it. Nobody, like, if the house caught fire, we might have lost it then. But our safe is fire resistant. So it's got,
Yeah. Well, and like the kids, like I only have the solely Social Security number memorized. I don't have.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what any numbers and rockets are. So.
yeah. Well, but when it comes to birth certificates and stuff, you can get those replaced. Like, and I know you just have to go to your,
Yeah.
your local, health department, or wherever they keep records in your city. I think it's usually the health department in most places,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyway, I think that's a good place to leave this conversation. I've been rambling kind of.
And the cat's meowing at me.
Cat's meowing. He wants out of the door. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back on Tuesday. You guys will see me on Tuesday. I've got a great podcast with G. Michael Hopf. Tune in, guys. We'll see you.
Bye.